again, that was not the will of council. But then it goes to an up and down vote, and that's where a lot of stuff goes on in terms of perception. But what happens if we don't vote for the budget? Then the city manager's budget is the one that comes to gets enacted. Correct, Bill? So once again, we have this process that we've got to deal with. But myself, I'm going to be negotiating for the 4th firefighter at the Stumpy Lake Station, because first of all, the chief asked for it, and I'm telling you, it's not fun having fatalities in your district, and that's what I'm going to be lobbying for. But the thing is, one of the things what really drives, budgets are two things. We have unfunded mandates from the state, and I'm going to go over a few of them with you. And the other thing is public demand, okay? Now, Dane comes and testifies in front of council during the budget, okay? And what do you see? Dane and Marlene will get up there and say, okay, we really want you to hold the line, and you two, you're there quite frequently, it's always good to see you. And the point is, who comes up right after you, okay? The teachers coming up and say they haven't had a real raise in 7 years. You get the firefighters and police coming up and said they've been on the job for 11 years and they're making the same amount of money as the people coming out of the academies. You got the people wearing the spandex wanting the bike roads, right? And then you got people a couple of years ago, remember the animal shelter? You know why we got an animal shelter? People came out and asked for it. And also a mandate from the state licensed veterinarian that was going to fine us a couple $1,000 a day for that thing. Okay, the rec center at Bayside, Williams Farm. You know how much a rec center costs? Any idea? About $36 million. And it costs from $2 to $2.5 million a year to operate a rec center. And the point is, it's really critical that you understand that it's public demand that drives things. They want roads, they want infrastructure. Localities are a little bit different in terms of what goes on in the state level and everything. So you will see at the public hearings that people want, certain things for their own constituencies, okay? So a lot of the things we do are actually driven by what the public wants, right? A lot of times this costs money. And once again, when we talk about employees not having, significant raises for a year, we all know that the economy is very tough on everybody. But, a lot of the employees that work in the city make less than $30,000 a year. Bill's also got, teachers' aides and school bus drivers that really, don't make the big bucks, like everybody else, okay? And the point is, how do we do this? How do we get this balance? Well, what's happening in the future? What are we going to look forward to? Is the cost of government going to go up, or is it going to go down? I'm going to tell you that it's going to go up exponentially. I hate to be the bearer of ill tidings. Some of my fellow council members refer to me as Dr. Doom, because a couple of years ago I was saying, watch out, around 2014 things are going to start getting bad, okay? But we've got unfunded mandates coming down the pipe. We have, and I'm going to ask Brad to come up here in a minute just to give you an overview of a sliver of what's going down there. And just in terms of costs of government. And what's it going to cost us to make up in the roads? What's going to happen in healthcare as it's going to go up and up? We're going to have these challenges. So Brad, would you just come up and please give this audience. And just so you know, Brad is a licensed professional engineer. And he's bringing a breath of fresh air and knowledge on some of this stuff. And if you think stormwater's coming, wait till you hear about TMDL. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. We could do maybe a couple minutes, and we have plenty of time for questions.
Okay.
And I'm going to appreciate being asked, Bob, and Dana actually called me and asked me to present, and I'm glad that Bob and Bill are here to do that. But when we talk about unfunded mandates, and I'm sorry to see Bill leave because I was going to talk about the dastardly state representatives who pass these things down. But it's not just a situation where folks in Richmond, folks in DC create a new program and say the locality has to fund it. There are other things when you talk about unfunded mandates. One of the things that's been brewing for a couple of years, and I apologize about talking for talking about this right after breakfast, but the low flow toilets that were environmentally sensitive, exactly, that you have to flush twice. What is happening now with those is there's actually not enough, when you look at those on a macro system for a subdivision or a neighborhood or a whatever the bigger group is, the water going through the pipes, there's not enough water to carry everything else that's going through. And that waste is sitting in the pipes and it's creating sulfuric acid, and that's actually eating our pipes, and it's speeding up the time that we need to replace that infrastructure. So you have something that is a well-intentioned, good, environmentally sensitive thing. Low-flow toilets don't use as much water, but then it has this very far downstream, no pun intended, effect that is really banging on these budgets. Bob wanted me to talk about the stormwater stuff for a while, and I'll do it in real quick because I do want to get to questions. The new stormwater mandates. We're all very sensitive to the Chesapeake Bay. We've lived it, we enjoy, we recreate in it, everything. Nobody's out there dumping their used motor oil into the bay or anything like that, but there are these new cleanup efforts, and they are actually changing how we are going to have to develop and redevelop properties. You drive up and down Virginia Beach Boulevard, there are plenty of opportunities for redevelopment. Up and down Virginia Beach Boulevard, the old HQ Shopping Center. Go further down, you got the Old Hills Shopping Center. But the way that the stormwater regulations are being changed, and this happens on July 1st, that you have to really overmanage your stormwater, it is actually going to be something that devalues the property. And that's, I've talked about it, I've talked to Richmond about it. Everybody is agreeing, consultants are agreeing, that it's going to devalue or take away the development ability of a piece of property by about 18 to 22%. So now, because you're having to manage green roofs and because you're having to create big bioretention planting beds to manage the stormwater, you are actually taking away the development potential of pieces of property. That's my look on it as an engineer. Now I put on my city council hat and I look at real estate revenues. Real estate property taxes are the biggest revenue source for the city's budget. It's a 25% share of the city's budget. And if you're taking away 20% of the value of property, let's take that HQ property up at Town Center. It's been sitting there vacant for who knows how many years, a dozen years or so. If that piece of property, just say it's worth $10 million, and that developer, that property owner, finally comes to the city and finally tries to do a redevelopment project on that piece of property, but he can't get, say he was planning to do 240 apartment units on that piece of property. Now he may only be able to get 195 units because he can't develop to the density that he was planning. So he goes down to the city assessor's office and says, my piece of property isn't worth $10 million anymore. It's only worth $8 million. I want to see that reflected in my property tax. And there goes city revenues to the tune of about 20%. So all these things, and I'll quit now and let Bob and Bill get back up here and field some questions. But all these things, well-intentioned though they may be, it's not just where somebody creates a program and says the city, the state, the federal government has to fund it. But they are really having some serious impacts on our budget, on our fiscal responsibility, and how we spend our money. So,
I appreciate that. Once again, you know, we've got challenges out there, and I'm going to have a solution for you in a minute. Yes?
Good. Why not hold the line on hiring new employees? There was 145 identified positions that we no longer need, 38 personnel that are mandated over there. It's not 144. On the school side, 200, a couple of 200 students, I'm sure, can be easily absorbed in this, all the classes they are. They're not all going into one class without hiring more teachers. And then you could use that extra money that would have gone to fringe benefits and salaries and give them a proper raise.
Let me put it this way. I think even within our health and human services, I think we have to hire 27.
You said 21.
Yeah, 21 new people. And then 17 for the TMDL and everything. Let me put it this way. We are in the process, if I can just answer this, we're in the process right now of, you know, a couple of years ago, we got a process improvement task force going. And Proud to say Chris Allen was on this when we first do it, and now we're doing a new thing on business expansion and startup day is going to be on it. But the city manager just right now sent out a questionnaire that we developed. We have some process people that are going to be looking at the efficiencies. Ozzy helped start this. He's a black belt Lean Six Sigma guy. You know, government is going to have to change. Government is going to go through a major transformation over the next 10 years. Because you know what's going to happen? A disproportionate burden is going to be put on the localities. Because guess what? The state's not going to be giving us stuff. You know, I have a list here. I'll come back the next time. We got unfunded mandate in the city, on the city, millions and millions and millions of dollars. And a lot of the stuff that we have to do is according to mandate. But the thing is, as we're going to have to go in, we're going to have to reconfigure government. The city manager just recently sent out a questionnaire that our process improvement thing is looking for the efficiencies in every department. So pretty much everybody's going to have to determine what to do. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, no, I'm sorry.
I wanted to address the school side of the question. Over the past 5 or 6 years, we have significantly increased class size. Class size equates to the number of teachers. The overall management of staff is done at a very high level in terms of looking at the total number of students within our system and determine levels of class size. Some of those class size levels are dictated by state floors. Some of them are dictated by maximum number of students that a teacher can have over the course of the year. There's a student caps of 150 students at the high school level, for example. There are certain floors at different grade levels. So all of those components go into calculating the overall needs of the students at the district level. And then from there, those allocations work their way through. So it's, I understand your question, and it's often asked, you know, just you pick and choose a student. We manage it at a much higher level. And we have increased class size significantly over the years.
I know you get it, and I assume you do too, but the unfunded liability that you're talking about is tremendous. I think amortized over 30 years is like $1 billion or something.
Yeah, 700 and some, yeah, I got the figure right here. I'll get it for you while you're thinking, but it's incredible.
And it really hasn't been mentioned in the city budget each year other than a footnote. But with Gatsby coming along, it's going to have to be mentioned, and it's going to affect our bond rating. And I understand that you guys get all this unfunded liabilities coming out, you folks that are here, Bill that was here, but the rest of the council, they act like they don't care, don't see it. Why? Why don't they? Or why don't they listen?
Well, you know, let me put it this way. Part of the problem, you know, we're a part-time, body. I'm not making excuses. That's just the way it is. But the point is, there's going to be a lot of realities going to be coming forward that, it's like that Fram Oil commercial, pay me now or pay me later. Gatsby's just one of them. Healthcare's another one. Obama, shrinking. Believe it or not, the oceanfront lost a lot of money last year, due to sequestration and, some of the other things. And I'm going to tell you what's going to overcome this is civic engagement. Once again, we got another public hearing on the 1st. We're now having public hearings more on things like the arena. I want to do the same thing for transportation and light rail. We got to get the public more involved in the decision process of what goes on in the city, because we're going to have a lot of pressure. That, like I said, as more pressure comes on us, line of duty pay. We're now picking up the payments for fire and police officers' families that are killed in the line of duty. That was a state thing, now it's ours. So Bill, you might want to comment?
None of that.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know, I've just met you two guys, and I don't know where you stand. However, at what point can we say no? Because it seems like we need to change. The theory is all wrong. I love to now give up the duct tape. However, I feel like you're putting duct tape on your arm because you haven't surveyed the scene. You're bleeding from your heart. You don't need to put duct tape on your arm because it does no good. At some point, you're going to have to stop. How can we engage and say, stop, because you're doing things wrong? The theory is all wrong, you talk about the low floor toilets, like you mentioned. Well, as an engineer, because I've got a background in maritime engineering, well, we knew that wouldn't work from the beginning. We don't do it. Only reason the low flow systems work is if you have a vacuum to pull it through. So instead of spending all the money repairing the roads, it's better to buy new toilets. But why don't you say, okay, this doesn't work, stop buying them, versus spending the trillions to change the pipes? It makes no sense. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's like this. You're actually thinking, is it a rational discussion versus an educational one? Because your decisions are more rational versus educational. If just being smart here.
I agree with you 100%. The thing is, a good example is the mandates. Brad, does the toilet bowls come down from the feds?
Yes.
You okay?
Okay.
It's a mandate.
I understand, it's a mandate, but you say as a state, yes, this is mandated, it doesn't work, it costs this much money, it's not environmentally sensitive because we have to tear up 85.5 miles of road to put new things in. But at no point have I ever heard any localities, municipalities say, this doesn't work. The Chesapeake Bay Society for the water thingy, they tell you to put in BMPs. First you had them do them around the house. However, all the homes got fungus and rot underneath them. The people making these decisions, I don't know where they're getting information from because I'm educated, you're educated, but you're making your own decisions because in my background, if you put moisture near the foundation of a house, what happens? But yet and still, they changed it, but no one ever said why it happened. It's very simple.
No, let me put it this way. I'm on the Hampton Roads Planning Commission, and I tell you, we have raised Hades on some of the regulations with the total load density coming down and everything. We're never going to be able to reach attainment on that, and it's because of the fortune. But the point is, you know, we protest all the time on this stuff. But the point is, we got to live with the federal mandates, and if we don't, Brad, do we get fined? Yeah, and you know, that's the thing. It comes down. You know, the city has the Commonwealth has over 600 mandates that we got to live with. And, you know, we can't change our police car colors without the state. We're a Dillon rule state. And believe me, I share your frustration, and we're down at the bottom, you know, the list when you go federal, state, local.
I'm actually at the bottom.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they mandate stuff to us sometimes.
Yeah. But, you know, that's part of the problem is the frustration, and I just think that we need more public participation. Not only do the council got to hear it, you got to convey this to your elected representatives in Richmond and, you know, and the federal folks. That's the only way we're going to work around that. More dialogue. Sir.
I speak more from the standpoint of people my age. I've been retired almost 20 years. The cost of living is going up. The cost of taxes is going up. People talk more and more about older people getting taxed out of their homes. And I don't think that it's being conveyed to our taxpayers what's going to be the cost of some of the things we're talking about. The stinking light rail. So we supposedly voted for, but everybody I talked to is against it. We have no idea. Coming to this kind of meeting, people like myself know there's going to be a huge cost, but we're not told where the dollars come from. There's going to be an increase in our property taxes. I don't know. Public-private things that keep coming on. Is it coming from property taxes? New school buildings that were built, these monstrous buildings. It just goes on and on and on, and I'm curious if it wouldn't be important as they're being addressed for folks like you and John and so on who are knowledgeable, if the taxpayers are being told, you know, if we're going to build this light rail, this is what it's going to cost, and this is where the money's going to come from, and if it's going to be increasing our property taxes, I think a whole lot of people might have said, well, what a wonderful idea to build that thing, it would be opposed to it.
But if I can answer that, and I think what we're doing, you know, along with John and when Bill was on, and I can tell you now, Brad is the same way, we're trying to change the corporate culture of council. A good example is the initiative with the arena, okay? And you remember the arena for a year ago? That hung itself by its own guitar. That thing just was not meant to happen. But you know what happened? I particularly called for a public meeting on it. And they said, nobody's going to show up a week before Christmas. Well, 350 people did, and we got a tremendous amount of information from the public. You were there, weren't you? And now all of a sudden we had this thing on the arena, the two proposals, where we had the two people present side by side. People got to come and write down questions. We're going to have another meeting where all the finances are going to be discussed, the city's involvement is going to be discussed, what's going to be in the term sheet